What's up, guys? How's it going? Hope you're all doing well. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua, which is looks to be official for either the 10th or the 20th of December next month, somewhere in Miami, possibly at the Dolphin Stadium. So huge fight here. AJ had been talking about coming back on an undercard to be able to decrease his level of opposition, knock off some ring rust, and work on a few things. This is obviously going to be a huge event. Jake Paul brings a lot of eyes to the sport. Anthony Joshua is still one of the biggest names in the sport. Jake Paul, him and his team have been very smart and strategic with who they've picked as his opponents throughout his career. They've made a few mistakes along the way, such as Tommy Fury. But like I said, they've been very strategic in who they've picked. And up until this point, I don't think he's actually ever fought anybody taller than him with a longer reach. I mean, Fury did have a longer reach than him, which was a mistake, as Jake Paul couldn't really handle or deal with Tommy Fury's jab and movement. His legs and his jab would just gave Jake Paul a lot of trouble in that fight. Like I said, the rest of Jake Paul's opponents have pretty much been shorter than him with very short reaches, allowing Jake Paul to be able to establish his jab and land the big right hand, which is his best shot. Sort of a straight right hand or overhand right is Jake Paul's money shot. Um, and I think that's the reason why they've also picked Anthony Joshua here. Now AJ is going to be the first opponent that's bigger than him and taller than him, so he's got a longer reach than Jake Paul. So I think that will give Jake issues because Anthony Joshua has got a good jab, however, a little bit flat-footed, and also open to getting hit with the right hand or the left hook, which Jake does have as well. But like I said, most of his power is in his right hand, and this is one of the shots that AJ gets caught with. Now, I had said to one of my friends a while back when Dubois had the title, and Dubois had offered Jake Paul a fight, that if I was Jake Paul, I would have took the Dubois fight because obviously it would have been a huge opportunity to get in the ring with the world heavyweight champ and to possibly become the heavyweight champion of the world. He didn't take this fight, but I thought that was possibly a winnable fight for him. Now, obviously, it's a dangerous fight getting in there with any of these top heavyweights as they possess huge power and they can do a demolition job on you, which Dubois may very well have done in that fight. But Dubois is another guy that can't get out of the way of the right hand. So Jake Paul would have had plenty of opportunities to land on him, and anything can happen when you're able to land a power shot on these guys, especially when you're over 200 pounds, which Jake Paul is. I don't think Jake's a huge puncher, but he has got decent power. And I mean, we saw Dubois on the ground 3 times in the first round against Kevin Lerena, who also used to be a cruiserweight. So anything can happen when you're landing, flush shots on these guys. And a lot of these top heavyweights, they get placed on such a pedestal, because they, in the media, and they get paid so well and they're built up by these big promotional brands. But there really isn't that big of a skill gap between them and, if you go to your local gym. I'm talking about a good gym. The top fighters in those gyms compared to these top guys on these big cards, there's not actually that big of a skill gap. Now, obviously, in some cases, there are with guys like Alexander Usyk, Jai Opetaia, Tyson Fury. When Tyson Fury was in his prime, at this point, Fury's legs are gone and he's become more of a slugger, a lot more stationary, a lot easier to hit, and he's trying to sort of be like a George Foreman late in Foreman's career. Um, like I say, his legs are gone at this point, so he can't really be as elusive and slick as he used to be. But he was once upon a time a very skilled and high level guy. But these other guys like Anthony Joshua and Dubois, they are offensively blessed. I mean, huge punching power in both hands, but defensively, they're not that hard to hit, haven't got the greatest gas tanks in the sport. So there is opportunities for these guys to be upset. And obviously that's what Jake Paul and his team are seeing here is a possibility to, I mean, if Jake Paul lands one of those right hands on Anthony Joshua, I could see him wobbling AJ. Yeah, AJ hasn't got a bad chin, but I mean, we've seen him hurt plenty of times now in his career. So there is a possibility that Jake Paul could land something on him and hurt him here. And I think that's what his team is seeing here. And obviously for AJ, also, he wanted the step down in competition to be able to work on a few things, knock some ring rust off. And obviously in this fight, he's going to get a huge payday. So even if he does end up losing, which I don't expect here, but even if he does, he's got a huge payday and he can pretty much leave the sport. And Jake Paul, it's pretty much a win-win here because most your casuals are going to give him absolutely no chance. Um, Look, like I say, I'm picking Anthony Joshua, and it could be over very soon because we've seen AJ's got huge power in both hands, great jab. So, like I say, Jake Paul could be in trouble early in this fight, and it could all be over very soon. But at the end of the day, people are not going to be, too disappointed in Jake Paul because most people are expecting that to be the case anyway. So, pretty much a win-win fight for Jake Paul here. Because if he does put up any sort of a test here, his stock's going to go up. And like I say, there are plenty of opportunities in this fight for him to land something on AJ. But people are also, I see some of the boxing so-called experts are complaining that this is dangerous and whatever. I mean, you could make the argument that it's safer than him fighting someone like Tank Davis because, look, Tank Davis, he can punch as well, but I mean, the danger there with fighting a guy like Tank Davis is he maybe doesn't have, the power to take a Jake Paul out with one shot and ends up beating the shit out of Jake Paul for 10 or 12 rounds and putting him in a hospital. But if Anthony Joshua starts landing on Jake Paul with flush shots, the fight's probably over quickly. He's knocked out and the fight's over. And you very rarely see somebody end up seriously injured from a one punch KO. Most times it's when a guy gets a sustained beating from a guy with, decent to a below average power. He can't quite take you out, so he ends up beating the hell out of you for 12 rounds, and then you end up, in a coma or something. So I don't really think this fight's that dangerous from a health perspective. I think, worst case scenario, he gets iced and he wakes up, not knowing really what happened, but the fight's over and he's okay. So I don't have a problem with this fight taking place. Now, how I sort of see this fight taking place is, or how I see it playing out is obviously I would expect AJ to come out, start using his jab. Like he's going to have a big height and reach advantage in this fight. He's got a powerful, stiff jab. So I expect him to come out, he start hitting Jake Paul with that jab. Sorry about that. Somebody just gave me a phone call there. Sorry about that. But like I say, I would expect AJ to come out, start establishing that jab early, probably walking Jake Paul down and looking to set up that, big straight right hand or left hook as well. AJ's got a great left hook as well. And in terms of Jake Paul, in terms of approaches for this fight, how I could see him going about it is maybe trying to utilize a little bit of what Usyk did against him, try and use a bit of movement, um, try and stay on the outside, and then look to jump in with, like I say, one of those right hands behind the jab or something, and try and land one of those from the outside, and then get back on his bike again. I don't think he really wants to stand and trade too much with Anthony Joshua. Because AJ has, like I say, a very big left hook and a good right uppercut as well. So, yeah, look, I'm picking Anthony Joshua in this fight. I think he probably stops Jake Paul within the first 3 or 4 rounds. But there is, opportunities for Jake Paul to land one of those shots and possibly hurt Anthony Joshua. So I see why his team is taking this fight. Um, they're obviously looking at it like AJ is not the most skilled guy, and they're seeing openings for him to land that right hand on him. But, if Anthony Joshua's got anything left and he's going to be some sort of threat in the heavyweight division, I would expect him to sort of steamroll Jake Paul in the first, like I say, 3 or 4 rounds. But that's my thoughts on this fight, guys. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. Thanks for listening. Talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.